Millionaire catch black maid protecting his old mother. What happens next? Shocking. For months the old woman had suffered in silence. She had spent her entire life in that grand house, surrounded by marble floors and expensive chandeliers, but comfort and peace had long abandoned her. Her son, a wealthy man who had built an empire, was constantly away on business, convinced that his young wife was dutiful, kind, and respectful in his absence. He trusted her completely. But behind closed doors the truth was far darker. The moment his footsteps disappeared down the long hallways, his wife's mask would slip. Her sharp tongue became a weapon, her eyes cold and unforgiving. She never raised her hand at first, she didn't need to. Her words were enough to wound. "You're so slow," she would sneer. "Your hands tremble so much you can't even hold a spoon. Maybe it's time you stopped pretending you matter in this house." The old woman would shrink under each word, apologizing for existing, trying to smile through the tears that threatened to spill. She didn't want her son to worry, so she bore the insults quietly, though they weighed heavier every day. The only one who truly saw the cruelty was the maid, a black woman in her 40s who had worked in the house long enough to know what went on when no one was watching. She noticed the sneers, the rolled eyes, the way the wife sighed dramatically whenever the mother asked for help. At first the maid tried gentle reminders. "Ma'am, please," she would say softly whenever the words turned too harsh. But the wife only waved her off. "Don't interfere. This is family business." Yet the maid knew cruelty wasn't family business. Cruelty was cruelty. Still, she endured, mostly because the old mother begged her to. "Please," the frail woman whispered late at night, tears pooling in her tired eyes. "Don't speak up. She'll only make it worse for me if you do." So the maid did what she could in small ways. She slipped an extra blanket on the bed when the wife spitefully lowered the thermostat. She whispered comforting words after particularly cruel insults. She held the woman's trembling hands steady when laughter cut her down. But even patience has limits. That afternoon the insults were sharper than ever. The young wife stormed into the living room where the old woman sat quietly knitting, her hands unsteady but determined. "Still wasting your time," she scoffed. "You drop more stitches than you make. Why pretend? You're nothing but a burden." The yarn slipped from the old woman's fingers. Her lips quivered, but as always, she said nothing. The maid stepped forward, her voice firm. "That's enough, ma'am." But the wife ignored her, circling closer like a predator. "You cling to this house like it belongs to you, but it doesn't. It's ours now. You're just leftover, a piece of furniture too heavy to throw away." The old woman's eyes filled with tears. "Please," she whispered. And then the wife snapped. Her hand rose, palm open, fury etched into her face. The old woman flinched, bracing for the strike she had long feared, but the blow never landed. The maid surged forward, arm outstretched, her palm colliding with the wife's hand mid-air. Flesh met flesh with a sound that echoed through the room. Her stance was unshakable. Her eyes burned with fire. "No more," she said, her voice low but filled with thunder. "You will not lay a hand on her." The young wife's mouth fell open in shock, then twisted into rage. "How dare you? You think you can defy me?" "I will," the maid replied without hesitation. Her arm remained locked in place, a shield between cruelty and the trembling old woman. With her other hand, she gently pulled the mother closer, wrapping her protectively. "You've mocked her, humiliated her, broken her spirit with words, but you will not touch her. Not today, not ever." The old woman sobbed softly, clinging to the maid as though her life depended on it. The wife's fury wavered into something more dangerous, a mix of anger and fear. "You've ruined yourself. Do you know what you've just done? When my husband hears about this, you'll be thrown out with nothing. Nothing!" The maid lifted her chin, eyes steady and unafraid. "Then so be it. I'd rather lose this job than lose my soul watching you hurt her." The room grew still, the air heavy with tension. The wife's hand hung frozen in the air, her face pale with disbelief at the defiance she had never expected. And then, "What is going on here?" The deep voice cut through the silence like a blade. All heads turned. The millionaire stood at the doorway, his gaze sweeping the scene. His wife's flushed cheeks, her hand still raised, his mother clinging desperately to the maid's apron, and the maid herself, firm, unshaken, a wall of protection. His voice was low, edged with suspicion. "What is this?" The wife moved quickly, slipping on her mask of innocence as easily as she slipped on her jewelry. She rushed toward him, her tone dripping with practiced sweetness. "Darling, thank goodness you're here. This maid," she pointed an accusing finger, "she's overstepping her place. She's poisoning your mother against us. I was only trying to reason with her." The old woman whimpered, her voice trembling. "No, she was going to strike me." The son's eyes widened in shock, but before he could speak, the maid's voice rang out clear and firm. "Don't let her twist this," she warned, her glare locked on the younger woman. "I've watched her mock your mother, humiliate her, break her spirit every day while you were away. And today, when words weren't enough, she raised her hand to strike her. I stopped her, and I'll stop her again if I must." The wife's face flushed crimson. "Lies. You would believe a servant over your own wife?" But the maid's anger burned hotter than ever, spilling into words she had long buried. "Servant or not, I know what loyalty means. If you cannot honor your mother, then say it, because I will. If she has no place here, then she will leave with me, and I will treat her like the treasure she is." The words struck the room like thunder. The old woman gasped, clutching tighter to the maid's arm, while the wife's jaw dropped in disbelief. The son stood motionless, chest rising and falling with uneven breaths. His empire, his wealth, his power, all of it meant nothing compared to this truth laid bare before him. "Go with you?" the millionaire echoed, his voice unsteady. His eyes shifted to his mother, frail, trembling, yet holding onto the maid with a grip that spoke of desperate trust. For the first time he saw it clearly. She wasn't clinging to a servant. She was clinging to her lifeline. In her eyes he saw gratitude, fear, and something he had never noticed before. Relief that at last someone had stood up for her. His throat tightened. The maid straightened, her tone fierce with conviction. "Yes, if it comes to that, she leaves with me, because no wealth, no house, no title is worth staying where she's treated as less than human." The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. The young wife sputtered, her voice shrill with panic. "You can't mean this. She's your mother. This is our house." The son turned to her slowly, his expression hard as stone. "A house?" His voice cut like a blade. "This was my mother's home long before it was ours, and if anyone has disrespected her here, it isn't the maid, it's you." The words landed like a slap. The wife's face paled, her composure crumbling. He turned away from her, kneeling beside his mother. His voice broke, soft and filled with regret. "Forgive me, Mama, forgive me for being blind, for trusting appearances instead of the truth. I should have protected you. I should have seen." Tears streamed down the old woman's cheeks as she reached for his hand. For the first time in years she felt safe, no longer invisible. She clung to her son and to the maid, her sobs shaking her frail body. The millionaire rose, his shoulders squared, his eyes burning with resolve. He faced his wife with a coldness that stripped away all affection. "Pack your things. You will not raise your hand in this house again, not against my mother, not against anyone." Her lips parted, but no sound came. The echo of her heels striking the floor as she stormed out was louder than any argument she could have made. The room exhaled. The maid finally lowered her arm, her body trembling with the weight of what had just unfolded. She braced herself, expecting anger, dismissal, even punishment, but instead, the millionaire placed a firm hand on her shoulder. His voice was low, heavy with gratitude. "You saved her," he said. "You did what I should have done long ago. You stood where I was too blind to stand. For that, I owe you everything." The maid bowed her head, her voice soft. "I only did what any heart should do." The old woman leaned into her son's embrace, but she did not let go of the maid's hand, and in that moment the maid was no longer just a servant in that house. She had become family, the one who had proven what true loyalty, courage, and love truly meant. And for the first time in a long time, the grand house finally felt like a home. If you enjoyed this story, Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious and keep watching.